This is another Questions with Chris Wray from our friend Brett Baer. Take a listen to this one.
Historically, FBI protocol is that a defendant has, if he has no criminal history, is not believed to be violent or pose a threat to public safety, that he or she is permitted to self-surrender rather than subject dynamic execution of an arrest warrant. And here's what I'm talking about is the dual system. You know, there's that for a pro-life activist, but not that for a Black Lives Matter protester who maybe torches a federal building over the summer. So that disparity, that dichotomy, is what sticks in people's mind.
I understand that people have their opinions. All I can tell you is that we have one standard, which is irrespective of ideology, of politics. In this country, it doesn't matter what you're upset about or who you're upset with. You don't get to express that upset with violence.
You know, this is interesting. Of course, he didn't answer Brett Baer's question, number one. And then he says there's one standard, but there's not. Because the protocol is, if you don't have a criminal history, if there's not that kind of situation, and the person's willing to surrender, you let them surrender. And then he pointed out the fact that pro-life activists were taken in handcuffs with guns blazed, guns pointed at the family. Black Lives Matter activists who torched federal buildings were not treated the same way. And his answer is, I understand people have their opinions. Andy, this has nothing to do with opinions. It has everything to do with equal protection under the law and due process.
Yes, and Chris is being disingenuous when he makes that statement about we have one standard. You don't have one standard, Chris Wray, and you know you don't have one standard. You know that you take violent action with respect to people at pro-life clinics who are protesting, who are trying to defend life, and you know that if it's Black Lives Matter or if it's the woke left, you take it easy and you back off. I know that's the case, and you know that's the case. Why don't you say that and admit it, for heaven's sake?
You know, when can we play that when Merrick Garland was asked a question about the jury and he says, I respect the jury? Because this is the ridiculous nature of this guy's charged with a Free Access to Clinic Entrance Act violation. That means he's indicted by a federal grand jury. He's arrested at his home with guns by FBI agents. He goes to a federal trial in front of a federal court judge where he puts on a defense. And the jury goes back for 1 hour. And you know what that jury says? Not guilty.
You are the Attorney General. Give me your answer. Do you think that it was objectively reasonable and they followed your guidelines in sending 20 to 30 armed agents to terrorize these people? Yes or no?
The facts I have, which are those presented by the FBI, are not consistent with your description.
So you think it was reasonable?
I'm saying the facts are not as you describe.
What, that the children weren't there? That there weren't long guns there? That there weren't agents? What do you dispute? What's the factual premise you dispute?
FBI
Be specific.
Said they don't agree with your description of...
Be specific. They don't agree with what?
Of how many agents, of the agents who were there, and of what their roles were. They don't agree.
Do you know the jury in this case acquitted Mr. Houck? I'm sure you're aware. Do you know how long it took him?
I am aware, and we respect the decision of the jury.
Do you know how long it took him?
I don't know.
1 hour.
You know what? Here's the thing that's the most trouble. You said they don't agree with, the FBI doesn't agree with the assessment. Well, I don't agree with the FBI arresting this guy, charging him with the crime, indicting him, Department of Justice, trying him, and then he gets acquitted. And what's his recourse then? After they terrorize his entire family. And Merrick Garland's answer is the FBI doesn't agree with your conclusion. Does the FBI agree with my conclusion that they made up the Russian probe? Do they agree with that? Do they agree with that Strzok and Page we're trying to take down a sitting president of the United States? They agree with that? I don't know. You want to go through the list? Did the FBI agree when they put in a FISA warrant that they changed what the actual email said that was the predicate of the FISA warrant and lied to a federal court judge? And that lawyer's discipline, by the way, is he's suspended for 6 months. 6 months. And that was an FBI lawyer. So, yeah, we have the right, Andy, to be really suspect right now.
Well, we should be outraged and not just suspect, Jay.
I think I'm outraged, by the way, just for the record.
The sound of your voice would indicate outrage to me. Senator Hawley asked a question of the Attorney General of the United States. Do you know how long it took the jury to acquit Houck? You would think he would know. And he said, I don't know.
We respect the decision of the jury.
But he didn't even know how long it took to acquit him. And the senator had to say it took an hour. Don't you think?
Taxpayer dollars are being used to fund all this. You realize that? The trial, the arrest, the FBI
agents trying to using all these DOJ attorneys. And then again, like Josh Hawley said, at the end of the day, it took them an hour to acquit. As Andy said, most of that time was probably spent just determining the kind of the logistics of the jury.
But we can't catch those ones bombing the clinics because you know what, folks?
Nighttime.
They do that at night. And when you do stuff at night, the FBI can't figure out who did it because
that's pretty
surveillance.
scary since most crime is done at night.
Most crimes are at night. So is that really America? This is pathetic. Pathetic.
But he is pathetic.
Yes.
He's been. That's why he didn't deserve a spot on the Supreme Court, and they gave him this in return. And it's just it's not as bad as a lifetime appointment, but you wonder why we have crime running rampant through all the country. It's because they're focused on the pro-life activists, not the actual criminals. Because if that's the FBI is afraid of that pro-life activist where they need 30 FBI, then how many FBI have to show up to arrest one cartel member?
Well, this is the problem. Yeah, but you don't even.
But they're too scared to do that because
right,
those guys fire back.
Yeah. So this is the situation. This is a government out of control. Now here's what we do at the ACLJ though. We don't just say, "Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is bad." We file maybe a freedom of information request and find out what the heck was the charging decision here. How did this all happen? Who was getting these emails from these people? Who was making the decisions on the FBI field office makes these determinations in accordance with protocol? What does that protocol actually say in your Department of Justice FBI manual, which is supposed to be the way this is done? This one blames it on the field agent. This one blames it on the manual. We give equal justice. We treat everybody the same. We just can't find the people that blow up the abortion pro-life center. Sorry about that. Can't find them. They're not out here. Can't find them, but everybody else we can. This shows you the absurd nature of this.